Have you ever had something bad happen to you and think to yourself, what a disaster?
Well, today we're going to be talking about disaster and disaster risk. I'm Julie.
And I'm V.
And we're BARNNrangay. According to UNSDR, disasters are described as a serious disruption of an entire community or society involving widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses and impacts.
It has to exceed the ability of the affected community to cope with these negative consequences using its own resources.
The impacts of disasters include, but are not limited to, injury and loss of human life, damage to property and assets, disruption of services, economic disruption, and environmental degradation.
Now that you know what a disaster is, it's important to know what a disaster risk is. Disaster risk is defined as the likelihood of a potential disaster losses in lives, health status, livelihoods, assets, and services to a particular community or a society over some specified future time period.
Disaster risk is calculated as a function of hazard, exposure, vulnerability, and insufficient coping capacity. Let us do an example. A hazard could be you getting a heat stroke, which would be a harm to your health. It is quite hot in this time of year.
The exposure to the hazard would be that you live in and need to go outside to a very hot, sunny area during a drought season like El Niño. However, this alone does not necessarily make you susceptible to getting a heat stroke.
The vulnerability would be you not being able to drink enough water, not having a cool, well-ventilated place to rest in, or not wearing the appropriate lightweight clothing, increasing your risk of a heat stroke hazard.
To make this heat stroke a disaster, it needs to be widespread in a community and exceed its coping capacity. Maybe there was a long event in the hot sun and everyone did not get enough water, nor were there enough fans for everyone, causing people to get dehydrated and some going into heat stroke.
But how do we manage and reduce these risks? Well, the concept of disaster risk reduction is centered around systematic efforts to analyze and manage exposure to hazards, lessening the vulnerability of people and property, wise management of the land and the environment, and being prepared for adverse events.
This is done through the management of administrative directives, organizations, strategies, policies, and improved coping capacities in order to manage the risks posed by hazards and possible disasters.
Once you have taken all of these things into consideration, you can now make a disaster risk reduction plan. These are usually documents prepared by an authority, sector, organization, or enterprise that sets out goals and specific objectives for reducing disaster risks, together with related actions to complete these objectives.
And now you can rest easy, knowing that you're disaster risk ready.
Awareness is the first step. If you want to know the specific hazards to your area, check out our other video.